Welcome back to The Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Going to talk to my good friend Lee Kaplan. I love what he brings with Spicer, Kaplan, and Veselka, the law firm. It's a boutique law firm that has a really impressive staff that makes a difference in the lives of a lot of businesses here in Houston. I like also that he brings perspective and knowledge not only about business law, but about law in general. And we always have a great time on the program. And also I've invited Sigmund Kramer, our producer, to be a part of our conversation as well. Sigmund stumbled on a conversation. He's going to kind of provide the backdrop before Lee and I begin to chat. But you can learn more about Lee at skv.com. Sigmund, give us that background for this topic today.
Well, yeah, you heard me playing the Cheap Trick, the Dream Police bump music. It's almost getting to that point, it seems. I just got an email saying that the city of Houston is demanding to see the sermons preached by several area pastors. And I found that just on its face to be pretty, pretty provocative. And I thought it was an interesting article that, maybe need some legal discussion. And Lee Kaplan's definitely the one to do that.
Lee, good morning.
Yeah.
This is pretty astounding. I have to wonder if that's really the case. That just seems astounding. There's a report that the city is trying to subpoena the sermons and other communications of pastors who are not parties to a lawsuit over the validity of the city ordinance about transgendered persons using bathrooms. Now, to me, that whole controversy is a little bit of a tempest in a teapot, but the idea that somebody to work their way through that would subpoena the sermons of pastors is unbelievable. I really wonder if that report is accurate. I'm not, I'm familiar with the lawsuit, but I'm not familiar with the idea that there is an effort to subpoena anyone's sermons, but I guess that's possible.
Yeah,
that's
and
astounding if the city is that aggressive, and I might say that's stupid.
That's stupid. CBN.com, this paragraph to me is very telling. The pastors are not involved in a lawsuit that followed its passing, that ordinance called the bathroom bill. But city leaders want to see if the pastors have ever opposed or criticized the city. Who cares? I mean, the First Amendment says you can do those things.
And interestingly, this goes back to a little bit to the IRS scandal, because they were using the contents of prayers and things of that as a way to help inform the government's decision whether or not to grant tax exempt status or to give them the the 501c3 or whatever it was status for conservative groups, this whole brouhaha with the IRS. One of the things that they asked for was, what are the contents of your prayers?
Yeah, no, I guess my first reaction is I find great difficulty in believing that the city or anybody connected with the city would do this. But if they've done it, that is the most outrageous thing I can think of, and it even overcomes my current views about the city's mismanagement of traffic downtown and elsewhere.
Yeah. This organization, Alliance Alert, it's alliancealert.org, looks very legit to me. And they have a lot of different cases they're watching, including this one. I will say that the media reports where they came from can and cannot be reliable, at times.
I'm looking at the actual district court case number 2014-44974, and it is saying, pursuant to Texas Rules of Civil Procedure 176.6e and 192.6, non-parties Pastor Herman Castano, Ms. Magda Hermida, Pastor Con Hoon, Pastor Steve Riggle, and Pastor Dave Welch, together the non-party pastors, file their motion to quash subpoenas to produce documents or tangible evidence.
Yeah, I'm looking at that.
In what court is that case pending? It should say a district court.
Texas
the
Southern.
152.
I'm sorry?
The 152nd.
Well, that's Robert Schaefer, and Judge Schaefer is a pretty common sense guy. I just find it hard to believe that somebody would not quash a subpoena into people's sermons. That's
it's mind-boggling that we could even go there, don't you think?
pretty astounding.
Yeah,
Well, that the city would try to go there. This just, it sounds pretty astounding to me, but I guess we'll hear more about this. It doesn't seem to have made the Chronicle. When did this
the 9th
come up?
The 9th. This is dated October 9th, 2014. So this
if you will send me
this
that
motion.
link, I will follow up on it before our next show, because
Sure.
that is truly, that's even more outrageous than the FCC Fairness Survey or whatever that we talked about
Right.
A couple or 3 months ago.
Trying to have the
That's
FCC
that's unbelievable.
in the newsrooms. You mean trying to have an FCC spokesman in the newsroom?
Yeah, we want to know kind of, whether you guys are fair or not.
Right.
I tell you, when we give government our freedoms in just a few areas, they'll be glad to take it in all areas. In both
Let me
both
just
sides.
say that I have trouble believing the city has done something that stupid. I'd like to know more about
Yeah, I
this.
just don't know why they'd file a
Before I
motion.
condemn it, it just seems crazy.
Well, it just seems like, why would they file a motion to quash if it hadn't done it,
Well, sometimes people misread a subpoena. Now, I don't know what's in the subpoena, and I agree with you. Normally, you wouldn't expect that, but sometimes there's a very specific request for something, and it becomes a little bit of a cause célèbre.
Well,
I
I'll
don't
tell you
want
what.
to defend the city in advance, because I think the city is certainly capable of doing things that are so boneheaded that it would make any rational person who knows something about the First Amendment just shake their head.
Right.
But I guess I'd like to see the subpoenas and the motion to quash before I come to a final conclusion about it.
Let's go ahead and change the subject, if you don't mind, Dale. If you don't mind doing a little bit of homework for us, we'll get you back on ASAP with more information on it, because we need to know about this, obviously. But what else did you have for us?
Well, while we're on the topic of free speech, I've been kind of amused by this controversy over the ad in the governor's race that Wendy Davis has run against Greg Abbott. And my personal view is that, too, is not only protected by the First Amendment, but I don't think it's really a dirty ad, because everybody knows what Greg Abbott has done. I think everybody thinks it's admirable that he's overcome a horrific injury, but there isn't any doubt that he has featured his own lack of mobility in some of his ads, and so all she's saying is it's hypocritical of him to accept a big settlement, which he did, and then work actively for tort reform, which cuts down other people's opportunity to get large settlements when they suffer horrific injuries. So my personal view is that the controversy over that ad is somewhat misplaced. Now, whether it's going to ultimately hurt Wendy Davis or help Greg Abbott, I don't really know, but I didn't have that reaction to the ad.
I thought it was distasteful. I think it's going to come back to haunt her. I think it's the kind of thing you only do when you're double digits behind and 3 weeks away. And I would remind anyone to think of the ad that was done against Greg Abbott. I can't remember who the opponent was, but they did a similar ad against him, I think the last election cycle, and he came back with an ad of a wheelchair and rocks being thrown at it. And that guy plummeted about 10 points. I'm expecting a similar ad to come out within the next week or so.
Well, I think Greg Abbott's a formidable campaigner, but I'm much more interested in what either of them are going to do for the state.
Yeah.
And I think there's an issue that could have been exploited more effectively by Wendy Davis that Letitia Vanderputte has tried to exploit, and that is, if we don't want this state to be a third world country, we have to have an educated workforce. Mm-hmm. And one way or another, people have to learn how to budget to educate younger people. I hate to ever say something good about California compared to Texas, but there's little doubt that California has a stronger network of research universities and does a better job of educating many of its children than Texas does. It's not just the climate that means that they have a Silicon Valley and we don't. There are lots of reasons, but part of what's going on is we're raising a generation of children, particularly in the valley and in the cities, who are not getting a good education.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to spend money on that. Unfortunately, education is both labor-intensive and capital-intensive.
Yeah.
People are going to do better, are going to learn better with better teachers, and they're going to learn better with better facilities and computers.
Yeah.
And I think Greg Abbott, because he's Attorney General, has been somewhat unfairly targeted because he's defended what he's supposed to defend as Attorney General of the state, that is, the state's current system of financing education. But on the other hand, I think he has been extremely slow to propose some solutions or new ideas.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we are exploiting basic ignorance out there of Texas civics. The Attorney General, although an elected office, has to represent the state in the courtrooms.
Which he was doing, by the way, regarding this wheelchair ad, throwing stones at Abbott for accepting the money for himself, but then denying it to others. That he's following Texas state law.
Yeah.
Yes, although he's been a little more aggressive. Every state attorney general has some discretion, and he's sort of picked his fights.
Yeah.
Let me give you, I think the worst example was this Freedom of Information Open Records Act issue that he very strongly defended the failure of this Texas Enterprise Fund to hand over documents showing the applications of the companies that got over $200 million in money from the state's taxpayers, and never revealed the fact that there was nothing to keep secret because there were no applications.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nakedly political decision. It can only be explained by his desire to protect Governor Perry and to help his own political fortunes.
Mm-hmm.
So attorneys general have some discretion, and I think it was exercised the wrong way there. I mean, they do have limited resources, and he is to be credited for making efforts to collect child support. He's to be credited for, I think, doing a pretty decent job of defending the state on education funding, even though I believe their positions are completely wrong-headed. But there are other ways in which he may not have exercised his discretion very wisely.
Lee Kaplan?
In a way that doesn't bring credit to the state.
Lee, I got to call it a segment. It was a good one. Spicer, Kaplan, and Veselka.
Well, send me that information about the city's subpoenas. I'd like to take a look at that.
Yeah, I think Sigmund already did. I think. If not, I'll send it. I'll send it. I'll send it right now.
We'll talk about it next time.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being with us, sir.
All right. Thank you.
And when we come back, much more for you. I am Kevin Price. I want to remind you, best content here, including this interview, will be found over there at usdailyreview.com, and this is The Price of Business.